Buffs Nation, what is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful week. Hopefully, you're enjoying the bye week. I wish we had a game to talk about, but with CU, there's still plenty of things to talk about. I'm thrilled and honored to be joined again by Andy from Buffs Overload. How are you doing today, Andy?
I'm doing well. It's we were talking before we came on. It kind of flattened out this week.
Yeah, it's a little bit less of an exciting week right now for CU football, but I think the bye week's coming right now at a good time. Hopefully, this is a chance for the team to reset mentally and, really take some steps forward to getting some more wins here in the second half of the season, getting to that bowl. And getting some upsets. Right now, I know you spoke about this in your video that you posted yesterday, but this would be great, to start out with is, in terms of right now where this rebuild is with Coach Prime coming in here for about 10 months now. What has been your takeaways and impressions of how things have gone so far?
Well, everything's gone. As rational people, if we were rational, we would say it's going great, but we got a little irrational, I think, at the beginning. So if we were evaluating this, like when he got hired, 10 months ago, we would take this. I think yeah. Most people. I mean, if you're saying, well, they're 4-3, right? Mm-hmm. Now the 4 and the 3 may have not have come the way we guessed it would come, but we got there nonetheless. I think we would have signed up for that, and that would have been a rational, but we got irrational. Everything that happened at the beginning, the hype, it all flies out of the gate, white hot. Everything seemed to be going, as Coach Prime had told us it was going to go, and we kind of put our, we got buried in our fandom. I think we put our practicality away and just went with the fandom. And that's okay. That's what it's all about. And that made it so fun and just amped it up to a level we'd never seen. Like if maybe they come out and stumbled earlier in the season, we would have been this kind of flat the whole time. I don't know. Yeah. But it's if you have to ask, like where would I say we're at? And I say we're ahead of schedule, on track, ahead of schedule. Not light years ahead of schedule, but on schedule, ahead of schedule and on track.
Yes,
that's how I put it.
Yeah, kind of how I viewed this year too was just, we could beat the expectations, win some money, man, getting 4 wins or above, and then taking care of games against Nebraska and CSU. You get kind of everything after that. It's going to feel like an added bonus. And I think we're right on schedule for this rebuild. We've had some great moments in which this team has just looked unstoppable for certain spurts. And I think given some more time for the coaches, the players, for that continuity to set in a little bit more on top of having another recruiting class, I think everybody coming into this year looked at this year as a foundation building year to then start making some serious noise in 2024 in the Big 12, all of that. And I think that's exactly what's been happening with some big surprises. I think,
both
right now during these first 7 games. Want to give a quick shout out to Cheyenne. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all hit that like. Thank you so much. Always appreciative of the support. And y'all can go subscribe to Buffs Overload. His link is in the description of my video. But what have been some of the, I guess, surprises or things that you've really enjoyed about the season so far?
Well, just like everybody. I mean, I've enjoyed the attention, the hype, the kind of back to a national team. That's what I feel like we're at. I mean, we're back to being a team that's discussed. And I've said it before, and one of my videos or something, maybe with you, the only time you used to see Buffs highlights were during the UCLA highlights or the USC highlights or the Oregon highlights, and we're on the other end of the highlight, chasing a guy down after a 70-yard run. So I enjoy having some hype around Colorado football again, much deserved, by the way. I mean, this, just because we're going through this, it doesn't take away from like how awesome it's been. I think what we got sucked into, and this is, what I try to talk about is, we just got fully sucked into the, hey, he did it at Jackson State, he's going to come do it in the Pac-12. And that's it. And if you spoke out against that, you weren't a believer. Well, I'm the biggest believer there is, maybe except for you. And, it's just, reality does set in. And it's like, there are some good players at Power 5, and not just 10 of them on a roster, but 100 of them on a roster. And when you back all those teams in the corner, and that's what we do every week, we make it their Super Bowl, right? Yeah. They hear the hype. They're sick of hearing the hype. And when those players get their minds right, they're big, they're strong, they're talented. Any of the teams that are on our schedule, when they get backed in the corner, they're going to come out swinging. We saw it at Colorado State. I think that was the first glimpse. Arizona State played really well. And then Stanford, whatever happened in the locker room, and whatever they drink versus what we drink in the locker room, that happened too. So this idea that, oh, hey, it's no big deal, we can play bad and just roll a team by. Well, don't do that in the Pac-12 and the P5 level. You just don't do that. I don't care who you are. I mean, Georgia will struggle with somebody if they come out and don't play right. So the hype and everything else, the other locker room's listening too. I'll be the first one. I got sucked into it too. I said, man, this dude's going to roll. They're going to roll dudes. And we did for a while. And then so this bye week has given me a good chance to kind of reflect on the actuality of college football, and that we got some work to do, but we're capable of doing the work. That's the good news. Yeah. And the infrastructure in there, the recruiting, the coaches especially. And, I touched on this too. It's like the coaches, all I hear this week is like, we got to fire Charles Kelly. It's Charles Kelly. It's this, it's that. And it's like, I think the coaches are ready for this. I think some of these players, man, they got into something that they weren't quite ready to handle. They needed this break.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. You spoke a little bit about this yesterday, of just how being too rash right now, wanting to get rid of, like, it's not good, long term, in terms of continuity. I think the more time that, our players have in these particular systems, the more often these coaches work together, that's going to help this whole thing operate a lot more smoothly. But don't get me wrong, I've loved what we've done. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, each one of these coaches has their own recruits that they deal with, right? So Charles Kelly has guys he's in the recruiting process with, or he's in the, discussing portal activity with, who are that's his relationship that he's fostered,
Yes.
So when you start talking about, hey, we need to throw Charles Kelly off the bridge, you can throw him off, but you may take a couple of dudes with him. So, everything just nice, steady the ship. Let's steady the ship a little bit. And like I said, let's have a frank kind of, executive board level meeting about all this, because it's going great. It just, we just got a little, hey, last Friday was bad, man. You can't doll it up any other way. No other way to doll it up, except it was a meltdown. It was a bad deal. We had players who we have watched and loved, and they're melting down. And, we had some blow-ups on the sidelines. Like, we had all the stuff that they thought was going to happen to us at the beginning of the year. It kind of all popped out.
Yeah. It's been a both and type of thing. Like, we've really seen this team have awesome moments that some people thought we would never have. And then we've seen, like, some of these things come up with, with mistakes. And then at the end of the day, I love all the players that we brought on. Like, I've loved the instant turnaround, the instant roster flip. I still feel like this is a much better approach than if we would have kept 70 guys from last year's team.
Oh, yes.
This is a much better approach. But at the end of the day, we got to realize, that when you're taking 60, 70 players to build your team from one transfer portal class, like not everything is just gonna not everyone's gonna play like an all conference stud. You know what I'm saying? And there's
Right.
gonna be
And
hiccups. There's gonna be mistakes.
that's
All of it.
correct. And if you look, you came out of the summer workouts, right? So we come out of the summer workouts right into the TCU game. School hadn't started yet, right? It was all football, and all these guys were in on football. Then we start into the season, we get some success, and here comes the school, here comes the hype, and hey, I mean, we can talk. I don't like to talk about the individual players like in a bad way, like because they're kids, right? And they're young dudes trying to figure it out, and they're all trying to figure it out. So I don't like to single them out. So I'll just group them, but it collectively, the players that we did get from the transfer portal were definitely better than what we had. There's no doubt
Yes.
about that. But these players weren't frontline starters on their programs. They were kids that were buried on depth charts or who had played and were getting phased out, or were kind of the grad transfer types who are, this is kind of a mercenary mission, right? So,
Yeah.
to think you're going to just unwind that and change that mentality in such a short time, I think it's remarkable we've got off as well as we have, and he's been able to
Yes.
kind of navigate all this. Because and then what got them buried on their depth chart at another university, maybe those things start seeping up as the season goes on and we start playing games. And so it's nothing against, I wouldn't change our roster for last year. I mean, that's not even a question, right? That's off the table. But if we're evaluating it on what the kids that we have and where they came from and what their roles were on those teams, if we look at it honestly and go back and see how productive they were at their old schools, it's kind of what it is. We didn't get frontline all conference stars from other teams. Of course we did from Jackson State and those players.
Yeah.
McCaskill was a monster at Houston, right?
Yes.
But you can go through some of these others' profile and it was like, yeah, he's big, strong, fast, but man, he didn't play much. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when we get into this transfer portal, we talked about it, I think last time, it's we're going to get those starters now. That's the thing.
Yes.
You're going to get a productive starter from another team to come in now. Where before it was like, we got the big label, we got the big logo behind the kid's name. But when you dove into that kid's production at that school, it wasn't great. A lot better than what we had.
Yeah.
Not hitting anything. But if we're going to have a frank discussion about it, those things start emerging. And
Yes.
hard to win games. It's just, games are hard to win anyways at this level. Like I said, there ain't a Texas Southern on the schedule. Alcorn State ain't coming to Boulder. And that's just the facts.
Yes.
I love Coach Prime. I love everything about this, what's going on. So the haters can hit me up about the HBCU stuff, but I'll stick to it, man. The best players go to Power 5. There's a small percentage of players that can play both and be productive at both. Coach Prime had a huge percentage of those at Jackson State and brought them with him. And we're seeing that. It's not that, what's funny? We're not, I don't think anybody, when you look, maybe, I know Travis had a bad game the other day. I think he had a bad game defensively. It's kind of hard to even say that. You get smashed around for even mentioning it, but he got worked over pretty good. You can talk about whether he was tired and all that stuff. He's been ultra productive. Obviously Shadur's been ultra productive, right?
Yeah.
Sy'veon's been good when he's been in there. And we've had some other of those Jackson State kids come over and they blend right in.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about overall, when I got 100 dudes on my sidelines and you got 100 dudes on your sidelines, if I'm at a Power 5 school and you're at an HBCU, my 100 dudes are better.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the talent, I'm going to say, like, the talent difference, between what we have now and what we're going up against. It's much different. We're either kind of right there, maybe a little bit above for some opponents, or maybe some opponents, are right there. But yeah, it's one thing I was really interested to see was like kind of how we would manage some of these tight game situations, because we, with Coach Prime, didn't have many of them at Jackson State. And I think, man, like we've seen the team play really well in a lot of the fourth quarters, and a lot
Yep.
of the second halves. That's kind
Yep.
of been the theme, is just the slow starts in the first half, but then playing much better football in the second. Obviously, this past week it was kind of reversed, and I think this bye week is just good. Um, for them as well to kind of step away and understand, like, hey, there's adjustments that we can make in game management,
Yep.
and all these things. But like, that's why I put my video out. I don't know if it was yesterday or Tuesday, about like, hey man, like I'm still on this Coach Prime
No
contract
question.
extension, all of that, because a lot of these things you just learn and you get better at.
Yeah.
More the more often you face these situations. So
Yeah.
yeah, like, does it surprise me that we've had hiccups with not just players but with coaching, maybe some
Sure.
situational stuff? That
Yep.
doesn't surprise me at all. The
No,
only thing that surprises me is special teams, but that's another conversation.
I agree. And I think what's I agree about that. I think what all the things they told us were going to happen to this team just didn't manifest till later in the season. So we're just seeing some of those things now. We came out of the gate. I mean, I don't remember how many penalties we had at TCU, 3, 6, whatever it was, something real low. We lead the country in penalties right now. We lead the country in penalties. We lead the country in sacks. Um, we're I think 122nd in points allowed. So we're what they said was going to happen to us. It started to happen to us. It just was kind of deferred punishment. It didn't hit us till later. So if we'd have come out of the gate looking sloppy, getting Shador smoked, which he still got sacked a lot earlier. Just if we came out of the gate like that, the hype would have just kind of been okay. It would have just been okay. Yeah, he's doing pretty good. They lost to TCU like they were supposed to. They picked off Nebraska. They beat Colorado State. It would have just been. But we came out so crisp and clean. It set a level that it's like, I don't want to say unsustainable, because I think it is sustainable. I mean, Michigan has 2 penalties a game. So
Yeah.
it's sustainable. It's certainly sustainable. But he's got to fill the coffers. And I think he's got, he's probably a 50%. And I'm not talking about the belief, not belief. I'm just talking about pure talent, size, speed, mental toughness to handle this type of heat. And that's what it is. There's a lot of smoke around this team, and you've got to handle it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think you saw some players melting in that light. You just did. And just because Coach Prime's ready for it and he can handle all of it, man, don't think that those 18, 19-year-old kids can handle it. I see Indians comment, and I'm not Indian. I'm not hitting HBCUs. I'm just saying the difference between that and this is greater than I think a lot of people just want to come to grips with. I understand that each team has, let's say 10 dudes that can go play in the NFL or play at a huge Power 5. But we got them all now. I mean, you have to have them all here. You have to have 100 of those guys. You can't just roll around with 20 of them. You need 50 to 70 dudes.
Rawhide and I were talking on Tuesday, because we were talking about like what things have we been right on, what things have we been wrong on, and he's like, man, I got to be honest, man, I underestimated how good this conference and how tough this schedule was going to be for CU. And that's one of the things that I've appreciated that CU's always done, is like, you don't see us scheduling FCS schools. You don't see us ever scheduling.
Don't speak too soon. Did you see next year's schedule? I think the
No.
first game of the year is North Dakota State. And now I'm sure that was set a long time ago. I think that's the first game on the schedule next year. I know that was set some time, and I expect it to be probably adjusted or changed or buy them out. But the first game of the year next year is North Dakota State.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that needs to change, even though they're one of those top teams in FCS. I like the fact that we play FBS schools. I like the fact that we don't go against any gimmies, anything like that. And I think it benefits the players, long term, not having any of those cupcakes.
That's been a tradition. Like that's been around long, even in their championship runs. Their non-conference schedule was off the chart. I mean, you're talking about Tennessee, Illinois, Wisconsin. Like they were scheduling some big boys, even when So that's always been there. It's it's changed a little bit the last decade, and I don't blame them for trying to find a win somewhere. But yeah, next year's schedule is crazy.
Yes.
With that first game being North Dakota State, and I suspect that was set a long time ago, and they'll get out of that somehow.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd like to see some more fun non-conference matchups. I think, man, with some of the trenches stuff, let's talk about this a little bit
Sure.
because, I think we've had outside of Shane Cokes on the defensive line.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I guess it kind of has been a mixture of G5 and Power 5 guys coming over here, like Amari McNeil, Bishop Thomas, some
Yep.
guys like that.
You're talking about if you talk about the offensive line, I saw the comment. If you're talking about the offensive line, I mean, that's not a Power 5 group. I mean,
No,
look at where those guys came from.
all
I mean,
G5, 3 G5 guys.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
I can't remember if BB was JUCO or somewhere else, but it's
BB
G5
was like, wasn't he the Missouri State kid? FCS. I mean,
Yeah.
FCS. I think he was out of
Yeah.
Missouri State. So
Yeah.
you got Tank and Van Wells. I mean,
Van
those
Wells,
are Colorado guys, so they're Power 5 guys. I might have missed this in all the wash during that transfer, the roster redesign. Where did the big kid from Florida? Didn't we have an offensive lineman that came in from Florida?
Yes.
Did he punch out?
David, no, he tore his triceps in camp.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
David Connor. Yeah, we probably would have seen him by now. I think again, it really sucks that we don't have Tyler Brown because I think he would have really helped. But at the end of the day, right now we've had 3 G5 FCS guys right now starting on our line. I feel like Kareem Harden should have a full-time spot moving forward? I feel like it. Again, he was recruited by a ton of Power 5 schools coming out of JUCO. But it's a work in progress.
Yes,
and it's going to look better next year.
And that's going to get better next year. And that's where you're going to see, because if you take someone's 5th, 6th, 7th offensive lineman, a young kid who's laying around at a Michigan or a big school, he's a monster. There's no room that, offensive linemen, there's not that constant attrition, or you don't put in different packages and roll new offensive lines out there all the time. So those kids can get buried on depth charts across the country that are really good.
Yeah, no doubt. And Nicholas Braxton says it here, CU is going to be active in the portal. No doubt we're going to get these, I think, holes shored up, pretty much faster than any other program has rebuilt. And, it's just all about perspective, all about holding perspective with this. And I think, again, it's easy to just, blame this group, blame this position group, or blame this coach, whatever. Again, outside of special teams, it's just a mixture of things. When you have no continuity before this year, you got a whole bunch of new players, coaches in here. Things are just going to look a little sloppy at times. That's just how it is with any organization. But
I can tell you we're killing it. I can tell you those offensive linemen weren't on the field not tackling anybody the other night. That wasn't the offensive line issue in the second half of that Stanford game.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying. So, yes, the overarching, I guess, reality of this is it's above ahead of schedule, right on track, and the portal, let's not also with the portal this year, he's going to be able to, with pinpoint precision, figure out exactly what he needs. He didn't really have that before. He thought, and they speculated and they guessed. That's how we ended up with 6 running backs, that are all pretty good. We're loaded in there. We got tons of receivers, and our offensive line looks the way it looks. But he's going to be able, with pinpoint precision, say, this is what we need here. This is what we need here. So instead of a mass, quantity, maybe it's quality. It's high quality. And then, if you're just being selfish about it, does this definitely lock in Shedeur for another season? I've always thought he was going to be here for 2 years anyways, but does this definitely lock him in?
I think so. Again, like I know it's easy for us to say, not
Right.
not living it, but um, with college being such a finite time, why would you want to cut short this whole family experience, man? That's kind of how I feel about the whole thing. You got to remember their little sister, is
Yeah.
there on campus as well, and so it really is a whole family affair. And again, I don't think I buy the idea of Coach Prime going to the NFL to coach it, Shador or whatever. At
That's
some
like
point, you
saying
got to let your kids go,
no, that's like saying I'm from Mars. I mean, him going, he doesn't want any part of that. I think that's something that he despises.
He's
I do.
above it.
I think he despises, because what does he always talk about? Man, you gotta work for yourself, work hard, do your thing. Those guys are made men in the NFL. And by the way, the head coach in the NFL might be the least powerful guy in the building.
Yes.
It's the brand first, and coaches come and go. So
Yeah.
I think all that is that's just the haters, and that's just lazy thinking. It's what's supposed to happen because that's what everybody else does. So that's just lazy thinking. I never have thought he'd go to the NFL for 1 second. I couldn't imagine him dealing with those guys, and you can't get rid of them. It's not like you can go to the general manager and say, "Hey, we're going to roll these guys out of here." He's going to say, "No, budget department's running the numbers. He's a good bargain." That it's just he has no control. The beauty of the college football head coach is you control everything.
Yes.
You're in
Yes.
full control of everything.
He's built for this. He's built for college football.
Yes, he's not going to mentor a 28-year-old with a 5-year contract for $60 million. That guy ain't gonna. I mean, he'll listen to him for 2 seconds, and that's just facts. Now, you mentioned something interesting. This is kind of a little thing, but you talk about the money, or somebody hit the money in the chat about these players. I have 6 kids, right? So when all my older kids were going to college, I was always sending them money, right? I always had to send them money. They always wanted money. They were, and they all played sports. All of them have played college sports. So they were always, they needed money. They needed money. Is that reversed now? Like, is the pressure on these kids with the NILs and the collectives and the bags they're making, and they have money? Are they being pressured from their families to give them money? Because not everybody comes from a sustainable place. So is there pressure now on the kids to say, "Hey, I got a $50,000 NIL deal. I got to give some to mom. I've got has the support flipped?"
Man, I would imagine that there's cases kind of on both ends. I think that there are parents, even with some of these recruiting things, going on, it's clear that there are some parents of potential recruits that are all about Coach Prime. They want him here, they want their son here being coached by him, getting to the NFL, all of that. But yeah, like there definitely is pressure on college athletes to bringing in money like that, especially when it's thrown around. So you got to find the balance, and you got to find, in a sense, who can. It's like a new challenge, man, with some of these guys, like who can handle the money from an earlier age, because like you'll find out, at 18, 19, 20 years old.
Think of some of the backgrounds these kids come from. I mean, mom's hitting the kid up now for money. Dad's hitting the kid up for money. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of pressure on these kids outside of the games, but
yes, and then they got to go to class too. Who said it? Who said this quote? I'm trying to remember it. Ohio State quarterback, Cardell Jones. He said, "We didn't come to Ohio State to play school." That's really it, man. It's about football. It's about business. It's about making money. Of course, yes, you're also there for school and to pursue a degree, but you have massive pressures, put on you from all different directions.
Yes.
To be perfect in so many ways.
It's a thing. And the locker room too. I mean, I've always just thought to myself, like, if I was a offensive lineman, right, and maybe I got a NIL deal to Bubba's Barbecue, and I get free barbecue, and the quarterback gets a a Rolex deal. Okay, like how? What's my motivation for to block for that dude? Like at some point, I'm going to be like, dude, you know what I'm saying? Like internally in the locker room, we're all sitting there. We're supposed to be the same dude. How does that money divide a locker room? I mean, I think that's a real thing. I think I
Yeah.
can't imagine an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid sitting there looking at somebody with a bag and he's got an NIL deal that gives him free smoothies every Friday or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that plays out. Like that's got to be rough to manage.
I imagine it is. I mean, in the workplaces I've been in, man, I've been upset,
Yeah,
having certain people make more money
that's right.
than I do, and that's just
That's right.
minimal things. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah. It's like,
there's
hey, you
so
get paid
many
to do that.
social aspects you have to navigate with.
There's so much going on. There's so much going on beyond just what we see on the field. And I think that's the beauty of all the content creators and everybody is they've given us, unprecedented access, and you and I talked about before. You get to know these. You feel like you're watching a Netflix series, man. You get to know, hey, man, what's Jimmy doing? Oh, man, who's in the yellow jersey today? It's like that's what I said. My wife, she's like, you better get on YouTube and talk to somebody about this because I'm tired of listening to it.
Oh yeah, but like with these things that we're talking about, this is why, again, like why I feel so good about having somebody that is Coach Prime running this whole operation, because if there's anybody that I feel like can help bring a team together that can help navigate these players through so many of the things that they're going through, the tensions that they're dealing with, all that in this new era of NIL, balancing that with school and getting to the pros and all of that, it's definitely him. And that's
100%.
why it's like, we gotta be giving him a new deal here real quick soon.
It's got to happen. He sounds like he's almost reluctant to get into those conversations, which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I think it's funny how far we've come, though. It was like at the press conference, hey, we don't have the money, but we'll find it. That was the famous Rick George quote that everybody ran with. They can't even pay the guy. He's not going to stay there long. He'll be at Alabama in 12 months. We heard all that. And now it's like, oh, no, there's plenty of money to go around. It's just a matter of when you guys are going to get together and craft out that deal. Because I don't – maybe this is my fandom taking me over again, okay, which it already has for 2 straight months. And I had to come crashing down like a sugar high at 1 o'clock against Stanford. But I think he's not going anywhere. And you can say, well, it's going to be this mindset of, well, he's just doing this to get somewhere else. He's got it made at Colorado. He's got it made. Now, we're going to have a discussion at some point about the, kind of this underbelly of just, bad people who may aim to take him out one day. And we'll have that discussion because that's going to happen. They're going to come for him eventually. And I don't know what will be the triggering, headline, but it's going to happen. They can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves.
Just let it not be Texas A&M, man. That's the most opposite thing from prime time I've ever seen, man. Texas A&M, man. But yeah, like he's here. He's here because he feels called here. He's here because this is the right fit. I feel like he's definitely getting himself comfortable. I don't think he's somebody that just makes decisions based off of a school throwing the bag at him if they're going to be trying to control him and make him do things. Because again, people underestimate how annoying, how overbearing, how egocentric, man, some of these boosters and trustees, these certain at some of these schools are. Yeah. And we just haven't been doing that.
You look at these other schools, especially deep entrenched school, well, anywhere, any of the big boys who have had some level of success over the last 30 years of college football, man, they got some dirty dudes in the shadows of those programs. And when they get it in their mind that they're out of control and the coach is bigger than the program, they will take him out. They will take him out, and period. Or, so let's hope that's 2 or 3 years downrange, but it's going to happen. And maybe they won't be successful. I don't think they'll be successful, but it may be something where Coach Prime's like, you know what, you guys, I'm getting out of here. And who knows what he's going to feel like. I've coached, like I said, I got 6 kids. I've coached them all in everything. Every sport they played, I've coached them. 5-year-old girls basketball, high school baseball, everything. I've coached them all. And I know that when I went back and coached without my kids, it wasn't the same. Like I put in, but there was a different feel to the whole thing. And that's still going to have to be fleshed out over the next couple of years. As Shedeur walks out, Travis walks out, some of these guys walk out, and what he's going to feel like. But for me, I think short term, we got to kick UCLA's ass. Like we have got to go pull an upset. We've got to go pull an upset. We
got to come out. I'm so excited to see how this team comes out after a bye week. Like, because, we had such a good start with, weeks of preparation for TCU. I'm hopeful, man. Again, like this break is what everybody needs, man. Yep. Everybody needs this break. We needed it, in a sense of like fans. We can't just be calling for everybody's jobs and then be all about recruiting, man. If we're firing coaches during the first season, that's terrible for recruiting, man. That's terrible for coaching hires, man. We can't be having that happen.
UCLA is that there's no home field advantage to be had.
No.
Right? It's just a cavern of a place. I expect it'll be sold out if it hasn't been announced. But there's going to be a lot of, black and gold in that place. Don't be surprised. I mean, that's, that you look at tickets, if you can get to LA, the tickets are cheaper than Folsom Field if you can get yourself there. So, I mean, I expect that's going to be we're going to see about what that crowd looks like. Yeah. I don't think that's some home field advantage. You're not walking into Eugene and getting, shredded by the fans. I mean, that's not that type of place. Even when they're good, that's not that type of place. They are good. And that's the other thing. This schedule, man, we're about to be all put to the test.
Yes.
Your fandom, the ride and die, whatever your mentality is with Coach Prime, you think it was tested against Stanford, you just hang on. Because these next 5 weeks that's a pretty good end to the season schedule.
I can't wait to see how they respond, man. That's been one of the things I'm looking, so forward to. And with UCLA, back to that, anything can happen, man. When you're starting a true freshman quarterback, anything can happen.
You don't think that kid's going to get hyped up? I mean, you don't think that kid's?
I feel good about that matchup.
I do too. I almost feel better about that one than the home game against Arizona. Something's clicking with Arizona. They're on fire right now,
dude. Yeah. I know.
That was one of those games where it was like Stanford, Arizona at home. Okay, those look good. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, Arizona's rolling. They're pretty good.
Yeah. There are no games left on the schedule that I feel like that is a gimme, which sucks, but it's also exciting, to see this team hopefully take some steps and see which guys step up. Hopefully we see some adjustments. I think, man, what I'm hoping to see is with our starting offensive line, I would like to see some more adjustments there. Again, like Jack Wiltie, we haven't seen him since TCU, at right guard, but he is the same size, at least, as Tyler Brown. Yeah. I feel like plugging him in over at one of these guard positions could be helpful. I don't know why we haven't seen him on the field.
This is almost like we're getting another little mini camp before we play. I know the kids are going to be gone on break, and that'll be good for them. They'll come back. Like you and I talked, they may lose a couple in that process because he's not going to play with a kid who shows up late or misses his flight, like he said in that video the other day. Yeah. So we're going to see what happens, but I'm anxious to see the defense. The offensive line is kind of what they are. I mean, but I want to see that defense. I want to see some new faces mixed in, and let's see. Let's get after it. And I agree with you. You take a freshman quarterback, you put him in the Coach Prime hype machine, you put him in the Colorado hype blender, and let's see what's spit out. Okay,
Yeah.
because he's going to throw us a couple if we let him.
Yeah. And yeah, with the defensive line or just the front seven, one positive that we could have or look at over the last few weeks, even though we
Yeah,
just have one win during the last stretch, but we've done a lot better job at defending the run. A
heck
lot of
yeah.
times we have defended the run well, and then they've moved to the pass and they've carved us up for whatever reason it is. But UCLA is going to come in there running the ball. I feel better about this run defense than I felt a month ago.
100%. And going into the season, I was thinking, just throw the ball on us because that's where our dudes are. If you start throwing it around our secondary, we're going to get some picks and a lot of turnovers. I think the front, the front seven has been a lot better recently. But you've noticed they've mixed and matched some linebackers in there, some different guys. I still know where Kennedy is. I don't know where Kennedy is. I don't know what happened to that dude. And like I said, I don't like to drop their names too much, but that was a guy that I had kind of circled. I'm sure you did too. It was like, oh, we'll take him. And it's just, I don't know.
And hopefully we see Jawan Mitchell back. What were your thoughts on Trevor Woods playing linebacker last week?
It was okay. I mean, he did a serviceable job. It's not who you want there. I was surprised to see him in there. I kept thinking when I saw him flash, because I didn't know that he was going to do that. I kept see him flash on the film, and I'm like, well, there's still two safe. Slusher's still in there, and so is Shiloh. Where's that dude playing? And it was okay, but it's not what you want. He's still I love the kid, but he's still a step slower than what you want.
Yeah.
And he's not maybe he's not instinctual there. And did you ever find out what happened to Juwan Mitchell? I mean, I'm sure that's been out.
No, I'm just praying to God, man, we see him on the field against UCLA, man, because he's been so helpful.
Yeah. It's like, what happened to Juwan? You ask him. And that was it. And I was like, well, what happened to him? It was like, you left me hanging.
We hit that bye week, so we're not going to hear.
No, we're either going to see him or we won't see him. But he was doing great. And, I hope he's still out there. And yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But we just got kicked in the face and all of us got flattened out. And it's tough to hear. Sometimes it's just tough to hear the truth. And it's like, the truth is we're giving up too many points. The truth is we're getting a quarterback smoked every night. The truth is we can't defend the pass. Okay. The truth is, pick one. We give up too many points. And that's not winning football. As fun as it is, maybe, that is not winning football, especially at this level. Mm-hmm. And it manifested itself late, but it's here now. So we got to fix it.
Yes. We'll wrap up here very soon. Again, Andy, always appreciative of your time, but I did want to bring this up, going into Stanford, I think you were the only guy that identified this, that, we can't lose to a football team that doesn't have a head coach. I forgot, what was the title of Troy Taylor again?
Troy Taylor is named like the director of football operations.
Okay. So why are we having a quality control analyst running special teams right now? I think that's the one thing that
you want a special teams coach
was an oversight right now with special teams. We play like we don't have a special teams coordinator on the staff. I think Trevor Riley, his official title right now, is quality control of special teams. Do you think that is something that is addressed this offseason where we bring in a guy that has that official coordinator title?
Well, two things. One, yes. And two, I don't care if he's named janitor. As long as the punter can punt, the kicker can kick, and we can tackle somebody and get some returns. I don't care what they call the guy. Call him head chef. Call him whatever you want. But yes, I think maybe that was something that was maybe not. It's not overlooked. They don't overlook anything. Maybe that was on the list of needs. That was a little lower. And I think they thought, hey, we got athletes. We got dudes committing to special teams. It's just that it's a different thing too. And all this is, we're kind of learning some things on the fly and special teams. And I'm not saying they don't emphasize it. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they practice it really hard. I get it. But there's some things about special teams, just the punter. And I keep going back to this. The guy was like at Louisville, doing his thing. And like, I don't want to hit the kid too hard because he's had some good punts. I was like, golly, I just think, back in the day, we always had punters.
Yeah.
We would always have All-American punters.
Yeah. Again,
I
feel like it comes down to coaching. This is the one area of the team where it's like we have plenty of players to be just fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But we should kick. We're either our kickoffs are going out of bounds or they're going and they're getting returned. Every other team's kicking out of the back of the end zone, ain't letting us touch it.
No. So I think Stanford, I think they kicked a touchback every single
one
kickoff, man. Yeah. And I'm like, why can't we do that?
In this altitude, that's the thing, right? That was always our thing. That was always a little advantage we had. Mason Crosby was the best player on the team for years. He was a kicker. And it was like somebody kicked the ball out of the back end zone. I don't want them coming back at us. So, yeah, special teams will be addressed, I'm sure. We got enough people to return kicks. I mean, they don't kick it to us. Yeah. We kick it to their guys. They don't kick it to us.
I'll end with this question.
Yes, sir.
Here from Joey B. Let's tag team this a little bit. Joey B says, who's in the pipeline to backfill when Shedeur and Travis leave for the NFL? Most likely both of them after next season. Well, we'll find out. I think we got some guys that, we have some very talented secondary players right now that are freshmen with, Cormani and Carter Stoutmeyer. We'll see who else comes in the high school class and the transfer class. But then with quarterback, we'll see. Danny O'Neal will be here on campus next year. And then Bryce Underwood, I would imagine after the Michigan news today with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan, who knows what's going to happen with that? They might get bowl banned or sanctioned or whatever, with Spygate in these teams. I would imagine that his odds coming to CU, being a 5-star plus rated player, the top quarterback in the class of 25, he's a guy that I feel like could start instantly, just like Dante Moore could as a true freshman. Or another 5-star player, I think he's 5-star, number 4 ranked quarterback in 25 is Antoine Hill, who visited last weekend. Yeah. Either of those guys. What are your thoughts right now on recruiting for those positions?
Yeah, well, my thoughts are the same names you're talking about. Plus, let's what has been the recipe, the winning recipe for the whole Pac-12 right now? Save UCLA and maybe Utah, is to go get a transfer portal 1 year, 2 year gapper. That may be it. Like, I don't know if Coach Prime is going to turn the organization loose to an 18-year-old, no matter how good he is.
That's fair.
I mean, so you might look at a portal guy come in after Shedeur, a little gap until Underwood is fully ready to play if we get him. But I think it's, as far as high school kids, it's Underwood or bust. I mean, I've looked at some of these kids. He's big. He's strong. He kind of reminds me of Shedeur in the body type and, does some things. And so I don't think Coach Prime is going to leave it to chance. He's not going to let quarterback be the weak link. There's already going to be so much pressure on that kid following Shedeur, his son. That's going to be some pressure on whoever comes in. I think it's a portal guy. I think it's a stopgap guy while whoever he gets ready. It may be a 1 year deal, 2 year deal, whatever it is. But I look for the portal. I love that. Yeah. Or like even a guy like, that we've seen with like Sam Hartman, doing so well at Wake Forest for years and then, taking his last year over to Notre Dame. Right.
Yeah, something like that. We won't know till we see those guys hop in the portal, but you're totally right.
But it's to me, it's you just have to keep your eye on Underwood. He looks like he just looks like he's a little head and shoulders above the other guys. So if we get into Underwood, maybe it's one of those things where we don't do the portal thing. We ride with O'Neal and Underwood, kind of the combo, see who flushes out that first year. You're not going to keep these kids on the bench long, but I think it's a portal. I do. I don't know how these young quarterbacks, because if I'm sitting there making $8 million, $10 million a year, I ain't turning over to an 18-year-old high school kid. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to go get a kid that's played at Duke for 3 years or played at Louisville for 3 years or something like that. I'm going to go get a kid that I know is 22, 23 years old and can process and can handle himself. I'm the CEO of the company, right? So that's the quarterback is the thing.
Give them a chance to be mentored by somebody else. That's why it's like I love to dream about maybe our 25 quarterback commit, whether that is Bryce Underwood or Antoine Hill. It would just be great if they could just reclassify like Quinn Ewers did, and take just a year to learn, in his case at Ohio State, before then moving on to start, for Texas or whatever. But, having somebody, a veteran that's operating like a pro in that quarterback room, I think you're right. Like it will only serve somebody like Bryce Underwood better.
And especially by that point, you got to think everything around the rest of the team is going to be so much better.
Yeah.
You don't want your weak link to be, and I'm not saying, and these kids are great players. I'm not hitting them, but I wouldn't, I'm not sure I would turn it over to an 18, 19-year-old kid who hasn't gotten hit by a college player yet.
Yes. So, no
just,
doubt.
Yeah. So I think it's Underwood or bust. Underwood or portal. I'll put it like that.
Love it. I love it. Well, Andy, again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. All the viewers watching, thank you so much for your chats, being active in the comments. Be sure to hit that like on the way out as well. But real quick, Andy, tell everybody where to find you and what things that they should be looking forward to seeing you put out on the YouTube channel as we get ready for UCLA.
Yeah, I just put a video out about kind of what we talked about today. It's called "Come to Jesus Meeting," and it's just like let's get some reality in this thing. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any social media. All I have is a YouTube channel. So if you guys could subscribe, I'd appreciate it. It's Buffs Overload, and then next week we're working on something, and I'll give you a preview. Coach Prime is a sellout, and I'm going to tell you all about it.
Now I'm intrigued what you're going to say. Oh, man, I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you again for everybody hitting up the chat. I'll be on with Bird's Eye View later today at 5 Mountain Time. And, we got a lot to talk about. So appreciate it, as always, everybody. And Sko Buffs.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll hit the